still do 7 NUFC Matters shows for free a week. But if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications options. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatters1892@gmail.com.
Attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again, but it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all believe.
Good evening, welcome along to NUFC Matters. It is a midweek 3 Amigos. I'm unavailable to do one on Friday, so we know you like it live, so we have brought it to you on Wednesday. And there's literally 3 of us. Steve Hasty, unfortunately, he was working, then he wasn't working, now he's had to work, so he's unable to join us. But we do have Tyne Stato and Scunny Mag joining us to look ahead to Everton a little bit later on. But let's get into it and start talking about the Champions League defeat last night. I was actually at a poetry evening, reading my poetry out in front of a crowd. I think I chose the better option last night, to be honest, rather than going to a pub or sitting in the house and watching Marseille, Newcastle. I have managed to catch the first half. I haven't been able to watch the second half, although I have seen the 2 goals. Look, the season won't be defined by a 2-1 defeat in Marseille for me. And Newcastle United are in the Champions League for only the second time in the best part of 20 years. We're going to come up against great teams. We're going to come up against great players. I said last week that I didn't think Marseille would be as difficult as everyone was making out. And I did feel that Newcastle would get a result against Marseille. I felt Newcastle would win 2-1. I also predicted Newcastle will get beat off Man City 2-1. So I think anyone who's wanting to put a bet on this weekend, whatever I say, go for the polar opposite. But getting away from that and getting back to last night's game, we got off to a really good start. I thought the first half, Newcastle were better. I haven't seen the second half, of course, only the goals. But I thought Newcastle played well. The problem that we had last night is very simple. And it's the same problem I think we've had all season. Not putting our chances away. And although Harvey Barnes scored early on and Newcastle took a 1-0 lead and held on to that lead deservedly, the overall finishing from certain players up front just was poor. It lacks that killing instinct. We haven't got the killer instinct. And that's unfortunately going to impact on the team as a whole if, as happened last night, there's a goalkeeping disaster, a goalkeeping error, which happen, and they do happen to Pope, maybe quite a lot this season so far. And then obviously a good goal from Marseille. You couldn't say that the other goal wasn't a good goal. So you're up against a team with a great support at home, and you lose 2-1. It's not the end of the world. We could still qualify for the playoffs. We can still qualify for the final stage without having to go through the playoffs. So for me, that's not a problem. We all know after the Man City game, we've got to find the answer to winning away from home. The media love nothing better than jumping on our backs when things aren't going right for us. And for me, we don't help ourselves on social media. Some fans by, slating Eddie Howe, slating Nick Pope, slating Anthony Gordon, slating whoever. There's always got to be a scapegoat. We've talked about it on here many, many times. But my post was very simple after watching that first half this morning. There's no disgrace in losing 2-1 to Olympic Marseille. It is disappointing because we know we could have won it, but we need to be supporting Eddie Howe and the team at this time, and we need to be getting behind them. And for me, leave it to Eddie Howe to make the decisions, and he will get it right. I'm sure he'll get it right. Reading between the lines, you have a feeling he is disappointed, and yes, he didn't pick out players individually. He's never going to do that, but he collectively said that it's not good conceding goals, and there is a concern. So it's up to him to address it. And if at the weekend Nick Pope's still in goal, and if at the weekend Lewis Hall isn't left back and Dan Burns still left back because whatever reason Eddie sees fit, we just have to accept it. And Eddie knows as much as us that, he will ultimately be judged on results. And for me, I've got trust in Eddie. I really do have trust in him. And there's a lot of flip-flopping going on in our fan base. You see it time and time again. On the weekend, we were world beaters. We were going to do this, we we're going to do that. We've lost against Marseille, narrowly lost against Marseille, brought upon ourselves by our own mistakes, ultimately. And suddenly it's how out again from some people. And I just don't understand it. I don't understand it. I'd love to go back to the 80s. I really would. There was halcyon days where there was none of this. There was no YouTube. There was no Twitter. There was no Facebook. Where our only connection with Newcastle United was Charles Harrison on Metro Radio and John Gibson and Alan Oliver in the Pink and the Chronicle. I'd love to just go back to those days. I really would. And that's no offence to any of you watching or the two gentlemen who's on the screen with me at the minute. But I preferred them days. And I hate it nowadays. I hate the reaction. I hate the constant stuff that we see put out by the media to try and rattle us, which of course would bite like piranha fish in a James Bond movie. It's just it's a mess at the minute, really. Newcastle United's and the Premier League's kind of fan base, and that flip flopping's got to stop. And I know a lot of you guys in the chat don't flip flop, and I know these guys that I'm doing the show tonight with don't flip flop. But when Newcastle United, the clue's in the name. Mitch has said it when he's had a cup of coffee many times doing these chats before big games, to try and settle people's nerves. And I just felt tonight, especially with it just being the three of us, it was a good time for me to actually just get a bit off my chest and say how I feel, because you know what, I'm more disappointed in a lot of the fan base than I am in what Eddie Howe and the team's doing. And it's not on. Some of the criticism, it's not on. And I've got to agree with a lot of people who, people are saying, Nick Pope is this, Nick Pope's that. You know what, Nick Pope's, he pulled off two great saves in the first half. He kept us in the game in the first half in a lot of ways, If he was that bad a keeper, he would have let those two in. Newcastle would have been 2-1 down. I just don't understand the need to criticise on a regular basis. Maybe it's podcasters and the journalists' faults, maybe because there's this need for content. Maybe it's all of our faults that, people have been given the chance to have an opinion. But I don't know, maybe we're part of the problem, not the solution. And it's too far now. The genie's out the bottle. There's too much gone on. It'll get worse. It'll never get better. I've just got to accept it. I either continue in the same vein with supporting my football club and watching the game, or I walk away from football altogether, because at times, believe you me, I feel like doing it, because it's a complete head blower at times. It really does. You just wonder what on earth, what game people were watching, But it's all about opinions. Don't worry, I'm not walking away from the podcast and jacking it in. I'm just I'm a bit disappointed more in the fan base than I am in Eddie Howe and the lads. There's so much to be positive about. And stop flip-flopping those people out there on social media. Stop bigging the team up and then putting them into the depths of despair after one game. After one game, is it really fair? Let's concentrate on supporting the lads at Everton and getting that first win away from home. And then what is a monumental week, really, two wins next week at home off the back of a decent result. Even a draw at Everton would be good, yeah. It wouldn't be the away win that we're craving. But a draw at Everton in the form that they're in, and then a home win against Spurs and a home win against Burnley, that's 7 points. The same people who are having a pop again at Eddie Howe today will be the same people who'll be singing his name out loud and, you know, we're going to do this and do that in the derby. Give it a bit of context. Have a bit of common sense, man. And, you know, if you've got no sensible to say on social media, don't say it. Just don't say it. It's as simple as that. I could go on. I could literally talk. It's not a live Q&A with Steve Wraith that you've tuned into here. I could go on all night, but I feel a bit better for saying that, Mitch, and I'm sure you understand why I had to say it.
Absolutely, you had to come out, mate. We had a little chat before, we started, and I'll share some of what I said with everybody. I'm very acutely aware that being blessed with a platform like this, and I've said it a few times, you know, particularly with some of the things that reaches our ears, we could have everybody dancing a dance, turning in the latest corkscrew. And I'm very acutely aware that sometimes I temper my criticisms a little bit, because I've become more aware of when I am knee-jerking a little bit and the reaction that can then bring, and that spills over into the real world. And that spilled over last night with a couple of Dubai mags having a go at each other after the first goal. As one of them was having a pop at Pope and then having a pop at Eddie Howe. And so where does criticism become rightly levied versus becoming over the top and just blind attacks because you're frustrated and because you're pissed off because the result isn't going the way? You know, I think last night, you're right, we played well in the first half, but once again, we went ahead and then seemed to just take a little step back instead of pressing on. I think you're right. I think we didn't take opportunities and we paid the price for that in the longer term. And then as for that second half, I'd just like to know what was going on in Pope's head. And when I think about other times he's pulled howlers similar, it's the same thing. It's when he got sent off against Liverpool ahead of the cup final, same ball into the channel on that side. The defenders are split between the centre back and the full back, and he decides to go out and just keep coming. And you can see there's even I've seen a video of Chow running back and almost doing a double take when he sees where Pope is and coming past him. And that's what puzzles me about Pope is what triggers that mistake. What makes him make that mistake repeatedly? Is it the players around him? Is it something he's experienced in the past that he doesn't want to get caught in a certain position again? I just don't know, because last night there seemed to be no sense to his position and him running out like that. Everything seemed reasonably comfortably covered. And then out he comes, just whoosh. And I think we can rightly criticise that without going over the top. And I think we can wonder, well, where is the line for him? How many times are we going to look at situations where you could rightly point and say, yep, that was a mistake by the keeper? Where is his line in terms of, well, is it time to give him a rest? Is it time to go back to the drawing board? It's difficult. It's really difficult because, Eddie's not one for... I think if Eddie was going to drop him, he would have done it long before now. And so, where we go ahead from here with that, I don't know. But we've got somebody on the bench who I think would like, if he was given a chance, would take it. And I think would make it difficult for Pope to get back in. But that isn't what we want. We want two top-class goalkeepers vying for the position. And as a team, should we have done better yesterday? Yes. That first goal brought the second because we were mentally all over the place after the first goal. And then it was a mountain to climb away from home with them with their tails up, with their fans with their tails up. It suddenly became a different place to play, and it was going to be very difficult. It's a really frustrating evening because we know we should have had at least a point. A really frustrating evening because we know there was more, there to be had, and clearly there to be had, and should have been had, and wasn't. And that's exceptionally frustrating. And where people's frustrations that then boil over into criticism, but like you say on social media, then that can turn into quite a nasty echo chamber. And that's why sometimes I do have to sort of just check myself back, remembering the kind of platform I'm blessed to have and to be able to share our opinions on. And then I think we've also got to say, once again, French police treating our fans horrendously after the game, particularly apparently the ones on the upper tier, held and kettled and pepper sprayed and batoned like it's the French police hiding behind the old English disease thing again. When does this end? When does somebody go to UEFA and say enough's enough? When our fans are in France, they're treated appallingly. We really, really, really need something done about how this happens, because it happens every time. It was no different when we played in Marseille when we were knocked out by Drogba, and here we are many years later. It's more than frustrating, and UEFA need to be pressed about what do you do with that, because it always seems to be English fans in France, and that's not right. You're on mute, mate.
I know, I saw that. The cat was me own. The replies in the chat, I haven't got time to go through them all, but I'm not getting into to and fro. And be polite in the chat. I can see Muzza asking people to be polite, but no need to fall out over football at the end of the day. It's one of those situations which develops whenever there's a defeat. Unfortunately, we've just got to put your best face on and just crack on. That's what you've got to do. George, what did you make of last night, mate?
Frustrating is the only word you can have. A victory given away, as far as I'm concerned. First half, we were in control, and until the disaster that was Pope's, even then we weren't doing too badly. And as Neil's just said, that goal brought the second because we were so flummoxed and out of kilter. And if you look at the second half, Steve, you'll see the last 15, 20 minutes, we could have come back again. So, yeah, frustration. But, you know, when you've been supporting the team 80 years as I have, you can look back on memories and think, well, am I so disappointed about getting defeated in the European Cup at Marseille as I was when we lost to bloody Cambridge, way back in the day, and had to trail all the way home with a defeat like that sticking in your craw. No, I'm happy doing what we're doing, as the greedy little duck, I want to win everything. Of course I do. That's why I'm a Newcastle fan. And I've got to say the other thing Neil's highlighted, where I was going to say at the end of his bit, that I'm more relieved when I seen what was going on, that all our friends are home safe and without too much happening to them. Yes, it's bad, but I hate to raise a political thing. I just think Brexit's made it easier for them. That's all. It's another excuse for the French police. Don't forget, whenever we have challenged this, like Liverpool did in Paris, we've won hands down. But will our people bother to challenge? Will our government do anything? No. So let's get on with it, and with the best grace that we can, and accept that we're at the top table, and we're going to experience all these things, like it or not. The other issues were that it's the same. It's different game to Saturday, but Saturday was a brilliant game. But on the other hand, not much difference in the sense that if both teams had taken their chances on Saturday, it would have been 4-3 at half time. And we couldn't do it then. Harvey Barnes should have had a hat trick. Nick Voltemada could easily have had a hat trick, and it didn't happen. Well, same things were happening last night as well. So huge frustration is the only way I can describe it. But I'd rather be frustrated about losing a 3-goal match in Marseille than some of the rubbish we've had to put up with over the years, with the various defeats at various places over the years. So lick my wounds and move forward, and look forward to something different at Everton at the weekend. The Pope things is a mystery. I go back to Saturday, and the number of times on Saturday, even though we were playing well and looked like we're going to beat Manchester City, number of times me and Steve Hasty were talking to each other about Nick Pope. He seems to have a lack of spatial awareness for some reason. There were times on Saturday, for example, when either Jacob Murphy or Harvey Barnes were stuck out on the wing when he was handling the ball, and they were shouting for it. You could hear them from the stand. They wanted the ball thrown quickly, and he just doesn't seem to hear it, or he certainly doesn't see it. And for me, that's all part of the same thing. He's a brilliant shot stopper. There aren't many better. I mean, why does Thomas Tuchel pick him in his squads time and time again? And he's no mug. So there is an issue that needs to be talked about. But let's talk about it as an issue, not as the end of the bloody world, like some people are doing. I've had my share of criticising Nick over the last few weeks, but not to the point where I'm, totally bemused by it. I'm happy to leave that early and his team to sort out. But as I say, time and again, Tuchel picks him as part of the England squad, and he's no idiot. So somebody thinks he's doing something right. For me, it's I've labelled it spatial awareness thing, because he's blinkered. He seems to be blinkered once he's got that ball in his hands in the penalty area, and not really sure what to do with it, and that sometimes comes back at us at 100 miles an hour, like that stupid kick out against Arsenal that cost a point against Arsenal. Why did he do that? Why didn't he just lie on the bloody ball like goalkeepers do nowadays, and leave it till the end, the last whistle, so we got a point? They're the things that resonate with me, but not to the point where I'm totally distraught and wanted to destroy everything. I just want to see we do well, and if Eddie thinks that he's the right person in goal to do it, then fine. And Neil's absolutely right. I have no doubt that if Ramsdale gets in, Nick Pope will have a job shifting, because the bits that we've seen of Ramsdale being absolutely superb, and could be. The rest of the things, you could go through the team. There was some good performances, some iffy performances, and I'd see people getting really agitated about Anthony Gordon. Anthony Gordon's like Big Dan Burn. He just wants to be in the team. And if Eddie asked him to play in goal, never mind centre forward, he would do it. And you need some of that in the dressing room. The fact that it doesn't always work, we just have to accept. But when he gets the chance, he gives his best, and I'm happy to accept that. So yes, disappointed, but I'm not going to go overboard and pull the whole thing down. I just want to give Eddie and his team and the squad the chance to put it right, and hopefully they'll put it right at the weekend.
Yeah, people asking about Ashby and Kraft. I mean, Ashby's never really been anywhere near the Premier League. He's struggled on his loan deals. Kraft, of course, was injured recently. He was in the squad last night, but obviously there's not any hope that he could have done a job last night. Otherwise, he would have probably started him. And that's why we probably saw Lewis Miley drop into right back. It's as simple as that. And I guess Eddie has to rotate his squad, Mitch. This is the problem. We have to have squad rotation. You can't ask everybody to play 50 games a season.
When Kraft did play it right back against West Ham, he was bloody awful.
He was, yeah. Mm-hmm.
He didn't do enough to keep that place.
I've got to be honest. I'm very honest with Dave in the chat. I mean, we know he's a big Nick Pope fan, and he's defended him to the hilt all the way through the season so far, and will continue to do so. And I know there's a lot of negativity towards Nick Pope, but Dave's got a point in the chat that if Ramsdale does get his chance, let's say he gets his chance at the weekend against Everton, and Newcastle lose the game, and Ramsdale makes a mistake, what's going to happen then? Are people going to be shouting for Ruddy to be in goal? Are people going to be shouting for, that's the way it is, and it's a strange scenario, really is. And this gets into the point that I was making at the start. Everybody's an expert now, and I'm not saying some people are going, "What, Steve? People can't have an opinion on social media." No, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying if you can't put it across in a constructive way, which I'm sure all of you do in the chat, but don't put across abuse, which is what I'm saying. Don't put across ridiculous statements. That's what I'm saying, and that's what we're seeing. We're seeing stupid things. I'm not going to repeat them on here, but that's what I'm saying. You can have an opinion. Of course you can.
People forget, Steve, as well, that when a centre forward misses 3 or 4 chances in a game, it gets mentioned and then forgotten. A goalkeeper makes one mistake and he's going to get hammered for the rest of his bloody life. It's a thankless position if you're in it. And the last thing that goalkeepers need, I would imagine, well, any player needs, is to see, I don't know how much they look at social media, but I suspect that they do. The last thing they need is to see the fan base going into meltdown because of one particular decision, and have to have a bit of trust and a bit of faith that the coaching squad can help to put that right. So I'm disappointed, but as I say, I'm not going to go into meltdown. I'm not like that, and I hope I wouldn't be, but. Gosh, we've had some stumours over the years that would have made your hair curl. So what we've got now is we're in a different place. We're in a different level by far. And I'm more happy to talk about a misfortune at Marseille than I am do a bloody disaster at Hereford, Cambridge, or Oxford, or wherever it is that we've had to drag our way home from after some sort of disaster. We're in a different place, and let's take it at that.
Mm-hmm. And this is the point I've been trying to make. Not quite as eloquently put, but it's right. There is a difference between saying he missed a pass and he's a dick. And that's exactly what I'm trying to say. It's the way that people say it. It's the way that people criticise. It's the way that people have a go. That really is, it's just unacceptable at times. It really is. Players do make a few mistakes, Norman, during the game. And keepers make mistakes always stand out. You're right. And Stephen says, same old. Don't know why I get so upset. It's Newcastle is always going to be howlers, always going to get disappointments, but I still live in hope, as we always do, and we won a trophy last season. There's a lot to be positive about still. Last night wasn't Pope's first mistake, correct, Craig. There's multiple goals he cost us by going for balls he shouldn't. I'm not a fan of Ramsdale, but he needs a chance now, and it's up to Eddie at the end of the day, Mitch. This whole Ramsdale Pope situation has developed over the last few weeks. There has been some howlers from Nick Pope, and I think maybe this weekend we may see a change, and maybe under the veil of protecting the player, because he is going to get a bit of stick. And I think it was Luke Edwards who asked the question last night at the press conference, where he said, Nick Pope's probably going to get a bit of stick tomorrow, and that's when he said, collectively, it's never good to concede goals. But there was a certain look in his eye. I think he might change it.
Yeah, let's wait and see. He's very much one for backing his players. But if I was Ramsdale looking at the situation, I'd be thinking, well, when do I get a chance?
Yeah.
Am I just waiting for the Carabao Cup again? We don't know what guarantees or what condition he's been brought in to the club at. As somebody rightly said in the chat as well, though, in terms of Ramsdale, which relegation did he suffer to deserve a chance? And he does go against something that I tend not to subscribe to, about picking players up from relegated teams, because if you do that, you end up with a squad full of players who've been relegated from the Premiership, and that's only going one way. But it just feels like we've reached a pressure point with it all. Not just within the fan base, but I think, from the on the pitch perspective, that we seem to have really reached a crossroads with it, because it's also come out of the blue. I still would love to know what was going through his mind when he made that decision to go, because it just didn't. There was no need for it. There was just no need for it for me. And to add other recent criticisms and recent mistakes that you could quite fairly lay at his door, it does feel like we've reached one of those points where something has to give, even for Eddie. Eddie Howe's not one for throwing his players under the bus. And this season, on 2 or 3 times, he's come to the closest I've seen him doing so. And last night's answers to some of those questions felt a little different in his body language and the way he was talking. So it does just feel like we've maybe reached one of those critical points.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, somebody saying, having a go about us defending Howe and saying, he put his mate Byrne back in. He had no other option. There isn't another left back to put in there. Yes, Lewis Hall is available, but what do you do? We don't know what the situation is with Lewis Hall. What he's like after the game.
It's clear they're still managing Lewis Hall's minutes.
Well, we saw on Saturday, didn't we? 70 minutes, and he was knackered with cramp.
And I think it's clear the mindset is he plays in our Premier League game at Everton at the weekend.
Yeah.
Therefore, it doesn't take, Isaac Newton to do the mathematics on it to work out who's going to play left back against Marseille.
I mean, really, it should be the team that started against Man City for me that plays against Everton.
Yes,
I'm not
absolutely.
sure. I'm not sure it will.
There's no reason why it shouldn't be, perhaps with the exception of the goalkeeper. Not to keep stirring that particular pot, but it's quite clear who the left back's going to be, and it's quite clear that they're managing his minutes still for whatever reason. They certainly seem to be consistently careful with Hall's return to play.
Mm-hmm.
For example, Tino Livramento come back against Man City, and then he's starting last night, and he'll start at the weekend. So they're obviously comfortable that he can take that. But Lewis Hall is managed in a different way. Part of me says, great, individual return to play plans, understanding how people's bodies are, understanding how people recover from injury. That's fab. We'll benefit from that in the long run. But then what other choice do we have? Okay, it was actually, more of a back five with Tino at left back and Murphy at right full back at one point, but at the same time, it doesn't take a genius to work out what's going to happen and who's going to be in which position if Lewis Hall can't play 3 full games in a week.
Yeah, and somebody's saying, why aren't they doing the same with Tino? Well, Tino is a completely different injury and is clearly recovered.
Exactly.
They're managing. It's about managing an individual's return to play, and your return to play and mine would be totally different.
Yeah,
and the type of injury that they've both had. I mean, they're not the same, But as I say, on Saturday, you could see why they took him off. He was knackered with cramp, nothing worse than that, and that's just simply because he hasn't played so long. So I think that the sort of management of the players as individuals is getting back to the sort of thing that Rafa used to do. We haven't got somebody who stands on the touchline and shouts, "Run it off!" He's gone. We've really got some sports scientists doing with this stuff. So, as Neil says, long may it continue. Because in the end, we get the benefit. Instead of having somebody out for a couple of weeks, you end up with somebody out for 6 months if you don't handle it right. And that's no good for anybody, including the player. So, Eddie's stuck between a rock and a hard place. He's got to find 11 players, 15 players to put out at the weekend, and that's what he's got, and that's what he's got to do, and we've just got to support him at that.
Yeah, we certainly have. I think we've dwelled on last night's game enough, to be honest. It's never great after a defeat, but today has felt particularly bad because of the reaction, I think. So we can move on from that. I mean, Mitch, we haven't spoken to you since the Man City game. I've spoken to your dad, of course, but what a result that was. And the Premier League is what bread and butter, as we say. We'll have to finish as high up that league to get it back into Europe, of course. We'd love to get back into the Champions League again next year. That would help us financially, as well as, of course, the opportunity to play in the biggest European tournament. But it was a great result and 2 great goals from Harvey Barnes and just an all-round good day.
Superb effort all round. We had more shape, we had more idea, looked better balanced with the 2 proper fullbacks in place, and we gave as good as we got. And I quite, I love the fact that the fan base is having a bit of a squeak about this and about that. I love the fact that we got up Guardiola's beak and got him upset. That's what we're best at. And when it all comes together at St James's Park like that, it must be a horrendous place to come as an away manager and an away team. Because by God, when we click, we really click, and I think we can. It gives you a building block, gives you something to build from. What makes last night's result even more frustrating, because it takes a little bit away from that.
Yes,
because you see, we can go toe to toe and live with the very best when we're focused and when we've got the right plan and when we've got everything in place. And last night's results sort of taps into the energy from Brentford and from West Ham, where we feel like we let ourselves down a little bit. And so I think that's the next task for Eddie, is to package the positivity from Saturday and bundle that into the league away form and ignore last night as much as possible, and just focus on league and league results and league form, because there's something to package and deliver, because we'll need to at Everton. They seem to like playing at their new ground, and the did Man U with 10 men, which they must have enjoyed very well indeed. And we've got quite a big weekend planned with the Dubai Mags this weekend because we've got John Beresford over for a talk in before the game. So it should be a busy one this weekend for us. So want to sort of package a lot of positivity together for that as well.
Yeah, good stuff. Excellent stuff. Okay, let us lighten the mood slightly. Here comes the disclaimer. You love it, don't you, on the Amigos. The Tweet of the Week section is independently supplied by a lot of our viewers. We don't endorse any of the tweets. We don't support any of the tweets. We might giggle slightly at them, but yes, they're all in good taste. No offence meant, and certainly not the responsibility.
Put my glasses on.
Yeah, no responsibility of NUFC Matters or the people who provide this wonderful entertainment. And let's start with a couple of jokes. What did Jay-Z call his wife before they got married, lads? Fiancé.
Oh,
Very good.
Oh, man.
And not a lot of people know this, but the singer Bill Withers had a brother called Bear. He wrote telephone hold music. Bear with us. And my mate's got a Quality Street stuck in his windpipe. The purple one. Yeah, that's him. And just finished reading an excellent book, lads. It's called Fights on a Narrow Boat by R.G. Bargy.
Oh, dear me.
No wonder it's gone cold in Newcastle. Someone's left the freezer door open. And last week at mine, it was 2 feet of snow, lads.
No.
Christmas is on the horizon as well, so don't forget you can get a pair of these for your holidays. Or Mitch and Stu can get one of these. Fancy one of them, Mitch?
That looks fantastic.
I knew you'd like that.
I'll have a whirl.
Talking of gifts as well, she's very special. Show how you really feel with a Hoover Christmas gift set. George, that's not you in the advert there, is it?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, would you look at the time? Meanwhile, my neighbour really loves Christmas. Look how many trees he's got in his house. And Warwick Davies, congratulations to him. He's just finished decorating his tree. As for the Star Wars and Doctor Who and Blake's 7 tribute acts, they've been in an abundance this week, but thank you for this one. What a great Christmas treat that is.
Brilliant.
And my neck, my back, my pussy and my crack. And I have a feeling that one's made up, but I still liked it anyway. Here's a great blast from the past as well. Jacob Morphy. And when it kicks off in Wetherspoons, lads. Always dress appropriately. Do you know the difference between curtains and toilet paper, says this guy in the pub? No, says his mate. Oh, so it was you. And a Freudian slip on this guy's T-shirt. My ancestors built this country. Yeah, spell checking your T-shirt, mate. Good idea. It means friendship in Chinese, apparently. And I bought a book off eBay called How to Scam People Online. And 3 months on from that, it still hasn't arrived, says this unlucky punter. And never throw false teeth at your vehicle, lads. You might dent your car. Arrange these deadly cartridges from left to right. Go to the top of the class. You got it right there. And when she's getting ready to show you the advantages of dating an older woman, keeping on the dentures theme. Finishing up, we've got a hat trick of these. Just found out where Grandpa's been hiding all his porn. And here we go. How to pee with morning wood. Thanks, Jimmy, for this one. The tube, the Superman, the handstand, the frog, the lunge, and the blow dryer. I am pleased to say, lads, I've never attempted any of them at all. And I wouldn't announce I'd won the lottery, but there would be signs. Speaking of signs, Wodonga is a suburb of Australia, welcomes anyone who adopts our culture and obeys our laws. We all work hard, eat bacon and drink beer. Please take note of the above notice. You are not in bloody England. And kicking off in Asda, everyone was Kung Po fighting. And this means nothing to me. British mid-year cheddar. Available in all good shops now. And the most useless things ever. Sign not in use. A balcony with no door. A gate with no fence. And the border force. And welcome to Fing Gringo. Please drive carefully through our village. Jimmy, I don't believe that's a real place, but I did like it. And the season of giving has started in a supermarket near you. It's the season of giving head, apparently. And you've heard of a Happy Meal. Now get ready for a sandwich. Looks sad as well. LG 47 LCD, not a smart TV, but it's got a good personality. $40. And do not sit on the fence. I think somebody has. Impatient parking, 7 a.m. till 5 p.m. All unauthorized vehicles will be towed at a patient's expense. And Star Wars one for you as well. Our Whitley Bay, may the 4th be with you. If anyone know who the creator of this was, can you let us know so we can tag them? I'd say it was probably Darth Vader. And I need help with a crossword puzzle. The clue is overworked mailman. How many letters? I'm guessing too many. Says Captain Pick this week. We'll finish with these two. Ali Thorey, the apprentice rang in sick today, said everyone is away at his house, so there's nobody at home to wake him up. True story. And we'll finish with a viz tip. Tend your Les Dennis by putting your arm around a stranger at the train station and looking up at the departure board. Thank you to everybody for sending them in. nufcmatters1892@gmail.com is where to send them, or get in touch with the lads on social media, or send them to our Facebook page, NUFC Matters. We'll feature them next week. Thank you, Alan. He says it does exist. 3 Furno Lane, Fingringhoe, Colchester, CO5 7BQ. Interesting, mate. Thank you for that, for Googling that. I'm not sure who lives there or if there's a business there, but that's very interesting. Okay, we'll have a quick break with the ads. Back after this. A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them at www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can find them at their website, mrvickies.co.uk, email info@mrvickies.co.uk, or telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. 2-crew driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels and no interchanges. Hot and cold snacks and drinks available on the coach. All excursions included. Their website, unitedgrouptravel.com, email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com, telephone 01670 632 460 or 0791 666 4174. Just £30 per person deposit. Thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. And if you like listening to us as a podcast, you can go to Sports Social Podcast Network or to iTunes, Spotify, or other podcast providers. If you want to support the show, then hit the subscribe button. It's free. We do 7 shows a week. Hit the little thumb up under the video, which is the like button, or click share to share to your social media. You can also join the channel on YouTube by hitting the join button for as little as $1.99 a month. If you want to become an NUFC Matters member, you can go to nufcmatters.co.uk. It's a £25 one-off fee. You get your pen, you get your badge, a key ring, you get your beer mat and your fridge magnet and your membership card, nufcmatters.co.uk for that. And we have an event early next year, 13th of February 2026, an evening with Beardsley, Waddle and Gascoigne takes place at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House. To buy your tickets for that event, go to the box office 0191 243 1171 or Tyne Theatre and Opera House.uk. Can I just thank Jeff for a donation of £20 into the Malverno Fund? That's greatly appreciated, Jeff. Thank you very much. And thank you to Trulls, who's taken out another 48 months membership. Trulls, much appreciated. And thank you for your support and your opinions, Trulls and Jeff. Jeff, of course, now a big part of the fans forum. And, of course, the lovely Rex. It's always good to see Rex on the show on a Monday night. Thanks to everybody as well for tuning in and all your comments. Lots of comments coming in the chat. Can't get through them all, of course, on the Amigos, as you know. Just a little pointer as well. I've got a couple of other do's coming up. Early New Year, Super Matt and Gibbo, 23rd of January, and Peter Beardsley, the 30th of January. Both events are at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Both tickets are on sale on voucher, and both events are raising money for Age UK North Tyneside Dementia. The Entertainers book, still got 9 of these left, signed by Warren Barton. Just go to nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk if you want to buy one of those. Will Scott, of course, wrote that last year. It's a fantastic book. And I had an email about the book that I wrote, The Promoter and the Photographer. And John Askew has very kindly sent me an email. He said, just received my copy of Promoter and the Photographer. I haven't read it yet, but I thought I'd send you a quick note of positivity, as it's far more detailed and varied than I was expecting, and a snippet the price. There's clearly been much work put into this, and there appears to be something there for just about anyone with the worlds of sport and entertainment covered, as well as a bit of NUFC politics for those of us with a mile or two on the magpie clock. And it looks like the sort of book you can just dip into from time to time, as there's so many stories in there, many of them fairly short, which can make for easy reading. And I was even a Toya fan back in the day. Toya's in the book, of course. It's possible you might have underplayed the size and the variation of the book. I was expecting a few short stories, primarily relating to the 5 characters on the front cover. But there's more to it than that. That isn't criticism, far from it. But it's clear that the publication can be highly recommended to anyone interested in the subject stated above. And as has been mentioned on the platform, it would be a good buy for the casual reader and could make a canny Christmas present for someone. And it would be very easy to wrap up. I just thought I'd offer a few words of encouragement because they are fully deserved. Well, thank you very much. And I did promise that on the Amigos, I would read you a page from me and a page from Singe. And I picked out a Newcastle player called Mirandina. So my one page on Mirandina. Francisco Anandi Lima da Silva, better known as Mirandina, who was not from Argentina, but from Brazil and was effing brill. My first encounter with the little Brazilian was at a shop called Foothold in Newcastle, where he was launching a new high-tech football boot and doing a signing session. My mate David Ball was working at the shop and gave me a heads up when we got there early. It was bloody freezing, but worth the wait as we got loads of signed cards from him and a photo with him on my wind-on camera. Mira was the first Brazilian to play in the top flight. He made his mark, scoring a goal in a 1-1 draw for Brazil against England. And I remember a lot of excitement when he arrived at the club, and me and a few of the lads brought sombreros to wear at the match. What signing a Brazilian had to do with Mexico, I'm not sure, but who cares? He's best known for scoring a winner at Anfield against Liverpool and lobbing the V's to the cop, which he denies, and kicking Dave Besson, the Wimbledon keeper, up the backside and running away, which he can't deny. I never thought I'd meet Mira again, never mind work with him, but out of the blue, the little maestro phoned me on Facebook and then sent me a message. I thought it was a hoax, but it was him. He was coming to the UK and wanted to know if he could visit the club. He was coming over to open a Brazilian restaurant. I rang Mark Hannon at the club and he was only too happy to oblige. In return, Mira invited me and a few guests to the opening. I invited Singe, Joe Allen and Natalie, and free drink and free food for all and plenty Latino music. A great night was had by all. My last meeting with him was in 2024 at the Crown Plaza. He was making a whistle-stop visit with a friend of his to promote a new football initiative. He wanted another trip to St James's Park, which Mark sorted again, and Joe Allen and him had a natter on camera for the NUFC Matters podcast. And that was that. If he ever gives me enough notice, I'll certainly put a talk on with Mirror. Here's hoping. Singe has a different writing style. Now, Singe was a photographer for me at a lot of my gigs that I did over the last 25 years. Great guy. Here's Singe's thoughts on Mirandina. It was another one of those magical Steve phone calls where he randomly rang me and said, "What are you doing tonight?" Mirandina, the first Brazilian to play in England, and more importantly, Newcastle United, was in tune for a few days as a special guest to open a Brazilian-themed restaurant called Cabana. Pop along with me and bring your camera, said Steve. Mirror was my first footballing hero when we signed him, and back in 1987, although my granddad incorrectly thought we had signed Maradona. So I was buzzing with this assignment. We got into Newcastle just as the place was starting to fill up with other dignitaries and guests, competition winners from the local radio, and me, Steve, and Joe Allen. Again, I'm not sure how Steve bagged tickets for us. The little Brazilian arrived looking a little bit older since he was slamming a Minerva Supreme football off the Gallagher crowd security fence from another outrageous long-range shot from a ridiculous angle instead of simply passing to the much better placed Paul Goddard. He was with his agent, a lad called Lee Payne, who was a born-again Christian and had actually played a handful of games in our 1988-89 relegation season. I found Lee Payne to be, well, a bit of a pain, and I didn't trust him. Mirror, on the other hand, was fantastic and gladly signed anything people put in front of him, including some goodies that me and Steve had bought. He also gladly posed for photographs and joined in the crack in his broken Portuguese English. The owner of the restaurant had actually paid the airfare for him to come over just to make an appearance. Mirror didn't even have to do anything, just stand around, smile and eat some food. Food, you say? Yes, there was lots and lots of it, and it was all free. We got a glamorous Latino-looking lass wandering around with skimpy Brazilian-themed clothing, carrying trays of samples of food, and with all kinds of mad-sounding stuff to eat. All of this was too good to be true, and another occasion where I forgot I was here, what I was here for, and I was supposedly there to take photographs. The one I've chosen in the book is obviously of Mirandina holding aloft a vintage Newcastle Brazilian scarf from when he first signed. And that scarf was mine, actually, which I've still got to this day. So there you go. That's the book. It's a tenner. That's all it is, plus the postage. You can get a copy of that from nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk. It's a tenner. That's all it is. Please buy a copy. All the proceeds for this are going to Age UK North Tyneside Dementia. And the reason being that our very kind sponsors, who I will name check, but I won't name their business because they don't want us to do that, is Sharon and Paul. They have been very kind to pay for the printing cost, and Penny Print have done it at a really cheap price. So I know we've done about 35 of these books. We've only got another 160 odd to sell. But if you're thinking about buying somebody something for Christmas, we have got a great list of people in the book. And the Newcastle United players, footballers featured in here are Alan Shearer, Paul Gascoigne, Pavel Cernacek, David Ginola, Faustino Aspria, Peter Beardsley, Kevin Keegan, Malcolm MacDonald, Mirandina. And we've also got the entertainers games in there as well as Sir John Hall and the Magpie Group. The boxers in there are Chris Eubank, Jake LaMotta, Floyd Mayweather, Tyson Fury, Nigel Benn and Steve Collins, Anthony Joshua, Roberto Duran, Ricky Hatton, David Hay, Frank Bruno, Carl Froch, Thomas Hearns, Sugar Ray Leonard, and Mike Tyson. There's also some music in there, which has already been alluded to. The Farmer in there, Rick Buckler, Bad Manners, Toya Wilcox, from the Jam, and of course the Long Sands as well. So plenty of people in there for you to read about. Get the book. It's only a tenner. Buy tonight on the website, or buy somebody a book as well. It really, really is good. Jules, good evening. Says, I couldn't agree more, Steve. Some of our fan base are a disgrace. Wood podcast in particular is really annoying me. I've turned them off. One podcast in particular. All right, okay. What year was that Mirandina came over? It was a few years ago now. Foothold was probably when I'd left school. So you're talking 1988, 89. That's when it was, around about then. Okay. I did want to bring up something completely different because I had a feeling tonight, one night this month would be a bit of a drag, and I wanted to go down the old-fashioned route, and there it is. Tim Vine sent this out. Dear BBC, the FA Cup final should be a 3 o'clock kick-off, and build-up should start at 8:30 a.m. in the car parks of the team hotels, followed by live footage of the players eating breakfast. Please cover this event properly, like you used to. Regards, every single living football fan. I did like that, lads. Mitch, do you agree?
The nostalgic part of me agrees wholly and totally. Absolutely. But I think what we're seeing is a dilution due to the amount of games that are now on TV. You know, in the 70s and going into the early 80s, there was only a handful of games that were televised live. And the cup final was an event. It was an event, and that event started at 8:30 in the morning at the players' hotels. Interviews, seeing them failing in to eat breakfast, and all of that, because it was one of the few times that the media had such access to the teams and the clubs and the players and the managers, and it was a day-long event. I don't think in the modern world there's the stomach for that. In the age of TikTok and shorter attention spans, I think that kind of coverage would certainly appeal to some of us. There's some of us would drink that up wholeheartedly. But I think in terms of the bigger picture, I don't know what whether the hunger for that is there across the board, other than those of us who loved that. But we also have to put it in perspective. There wasn't Champions League. You barely got any European Cup games on the telly through the midweek. You had highlights on Sports Night, but you didn't necessarily get the live games always. And so the FA Cup final was one day where I remember, and we family gatherings for us.
Yeah.
The whole family, both sides of the family, gone down to Marjorie and Jimmy the Joiners because they had the colour telly. And we all were there, all the grandparents, all the cousins, everybody, because it was an event. It was a big day. And it isn't now. And part of that is football eating itself. The desire to have as much televised as possible, so therefore it's not as special anymore. I would be interested to see what the take-up of that kind of coverage of the cup final would be. It kind of sort of happens still on Sky Sports News. They dip in and out of it, don't they? From what I've seen. But it's not like it was, because, it used to be on BBC and or ITV at a level that was never done at any other time of the year. And so it was, and it made that whole, whether your team was playing in the cup final or not, you'd want to watch it because it was an event. It was special. And I can remember, Arsenal, Man U in the 70s, Liverpool when they were seemingly all conquering, and you'd want to watch the game. You'd want to watch it, even though your team wasn't involved. And I really would be curious to see what kind of viewership coverage like that would get if it was done that way again. My feeling would be there would be a certain demographic absolutely glued to that telly every day, full day. And outside of that demographic, probably not so much.
George, you go back a lot longer than me, Neil, for FA Cup finals, and it was wonderful. I do count myself privileged that I've saw the FA Cup final, as Tim Vine is describing it there. It was a day event. People used to come round and watch it in the house. So, what's your thing? What's your thing?
Well,
your memories, and would you like to see that return?
I would like, it's Neil says from a nostalgia point of view, I'd like to give it a go, because even beyond then, some of the things that I remember when I first started to show for the lads around to the various matches and the various trips to Wembley we had. One in particular, I think it might have been the Arsenal one, when we rolled up at Wembley at 10 o'clock in the morning, first in the car park, and got the ball out, and the lads started playing. And even that was on the bloody television, because everybody in the university said, "Hey, we're seeing you in the Wembley car park." And as regards the earlier ones, the 50s, well, my Uncle Cyril and Derby, who I've talked about on here before, because my dad often used to take a bus load to see Auntie Nan when they went to play at Derby. My Uncle Cyril was an electronics wizard out the RAF, and he built his own telly. And so he must have been one of the first people in the country to have a nice big black and white telly. So there was a bus load of Mitchells and Bryans and all sorts went to Derby to watch the match on the telly there. So yeah, it would be great to give it a go. But the other things that have changed, of course, is that you could rely on the broadcasters, particularly BBC, ITV, to be impartial and just putting it out as a programme now. Now you've got to put up with Sky Sports and to listen to Carragher, who couldn't be impartial if you tried. It's very, very partial, and it would come across like that. And I'm not sure it would work now, but certainly would be worth a try. And it's about an occasion. I mean, people on here must get sick of hearing me saying they would go to the match be an occasion. Just going to the match was an occasion for me when I was first started. And it was, the game was important, but it was the whole day. It was a whole football day. The only time in modern days we've ever come close to is when there used to be the 10 of us used to go to Bar 1892, Neil, and would start. I'd pick people up because I was the driver, being a non-drinker, and we'd start with the Bar 1892 opening at, I think it was 1 o'clock. We'd all have one meal. We'd watch the first game on the telly. Then we'd go out and watch our game. The lads would have a drink at half time. And then after the match, we'd sit in Bar 1892 and watch the second match. And when that was finished, they decided how you were out. I mean, our match days, Newcastle United must have made a fortune. We're not talking hundreds, we're talking thousands probably, because the way the lads spent their money. And I'm not sure people have the stomach for that. Never mind a whole day on television. But yes, it was an occasion. It was special, and it transcended the sexual barriers as well. It wasn't just the fellas; the ladies liked it as well, because they got the chance to see the Queen or Princess Margaret or whoever was presenting the trophy. And I remember one of the worst ones was that it must have been one of the early ones. I think it was the 55 one. And Winston Churchill presented a trophy, and I can remember the comments there was even from the radio in our house, because most of the people in the room were miners or ex-miners who didn't like Winston Churchill at all. So to have him involved was something of a downer. No, it's an interesting prospect, Stephen, and as Neil says, be interested to try. But I think he's absolutely right. The demographic would be interesting as well. But I just think that the whole scene's changed. The BBC old ITV way of doing things in a non-partisan manner has gone out the window, because you've got Carragher, who wants to stuff Liverpool down your throat every opportunity he's got, and Roy Keane, who can't swallow anything other than Manchester United. To give credit to another team, or even suggest another team, would be beyond the pale to them. I mean, the only thing that I've seen in recent years was when we went to the Carabao Cup last year, and Gary, what's his name, came out and said, I've just come out of that tunnel, and if Liverpool aren't up for it, Newcastle certainly are, because the captain's winding them all up in the tunnel. Again, I just think it would struggle because of the interests now. It's not just a programme like it used to be for the BBC. It would have to be something that was promoting what the pundits wanted to promote, and that would kill it for me.
You're muted again, Steve.
Yeah, the cat. I knew you'd have an opinion on that, so I'm glad I brought it up. Anyway, I've got 20 minutes left. Let's have a look ahead to Newcastle United's next fixture. Of course, Saturday sees us make our first appearance at the Hill Dickinson Stadium of Everton. Holds 52,700, and it is the 61st different venue to have hosted a Premier League fixture involving us. And it's a 5:30 kickoff. It's live on Sky Sports. Our team to follow, of course. Eddie Howe will be doing his press conference on Friday. Monday saw David Moyes making an enjoyable return to Manchester United. They won 1-0 with 10 men. Idrissa Gueye has been sent off, of course, for striking a teammate. He'll be suspended for our visit. Everton are also set to be without Seamus Coleman after he had to be replaced early on in the win at Old Trafford. Everton have staged 6 Premier League games at their new home. They've beaten Brighton, Crystal Palace and Fulham, and they've drawn with Aston Villa and West Ham. They have lost to Spurs, though, so they are not invincible at their new home. Referee, well, he has been announced. It's Craig Pawson, fresh from an eventful evening on VAR duty for Newcastle versus Manchester City. This will be his 3rd Newcastle game of the season. He handled the 0-0 draw at Aston Villa and the 2-1 defeat at Brighton. VAR is Darren England. If you are going down to the ground, well, Scunny Mag has got a new ground to review.
Hi folks, Scunny Mag Paul here with a new away day guide. This one is for Everton and the new home, the Hill Dickinson Stadium. Anyone that's heading down, everything needs coming up. Okay, so the Hill Dickinson Stadium, as it stands, it's a great looking new stadium. It's just put in the middle of an area that has no infrastructure set up for it. Getting there, if you're on train, it's going to be pretty similar to getting to Everton as it used to be, but generally it's a little bit closer than Woodison was. If you are coming on train, Liverpool Lime Street is well served. You can get direct trains in from Chester, Birmingham, Newcastle, London Euston, Norwich, and even Grimsby of all places. But to get there, you have to come through Manchester, a bit like they did in the Cup. If you're driving in, they do offer a club discount, and if you enter their code Toffees20, you'll get 20% off on a match day in any of the Q Park ones in the city. There's plenty of NCPs around as well, and some ad hoc little ones. The club do have parking, but you also are going to be locked in there for 1 hour after the final whistle. It's not worth it. Moving on to pubs. So in the city centre, I'll start from the train station. It makes sense. Most pubs will let you in. My personal favourite when I come on train is the Crown Hotel. Always got plenty of staff on, not a long waiting time, and Sailor Spins Puns will get you to the front door of that one. If you prefer Weatherspoons, there's one just around the corner from there called the Richard John Blackler, but after that I've picked sort of the last ones you'll come across before leaving the city centre towards the stadium is the Hooters at Amber Faced Worker, and no, that's not the description of the staff, that's the what 3 words to find it. If you're staying over, there's absolutely loads of hotels, so I've picked out for a range of budgets. Firstly, I'll go with the Cabanas. It's a hostel. I'm staying there again this time. Prices Driver often will find you at the front of that, but that's right in the middle of everything. If you prefer your own room, the one closest and handiest for the stadium is going to be the Titanic. It's a little bit posher hotel. It's housed in an old mill style building. It has a riverside bar area, and personally I find if you're looking for something a little bit nicer, the Titanic always goes down well. Joking aside, whenever you're ready to head up to the stadium, you're going to be housed on the northeast corner. Entry block is 24 through the turnstiles there, and stand cover shirts will get you where you need to be for the pre-entry checks and stuff. The stadium's cashless, and your view from the seats should be pretty decent. Thanks for your time. I've been Paul, and I will see you in the next one.
Thank you very much. As always, Paul, great to have your video, and everyone going down there, have a great day. Tune Statos next.
Hello everyone, another big game for Newcastle, this time first ever visit to Everton's new stadium, the Hill Dickinson Stadium, 61st venue that Newcastle will play in the Premier League years. And Everton have only one defeat there against Spurs, otherwise they have 3 wins and 2 draws. Most recently actually winning against Manchester United away from home with 10 men for more than 85 minutes. Now, Newcastle against Everton have some strange stats. First of all, Everton currently are above Newcastle in the table, and the last 6 times they played Newcastle when above them in the table, they have drawn 2 and lost 4. So Newcastle have a pretty good record when playing against Everton ahead of them in the table. The last such game was in February 2022 when Kieran Trippier scored that free kick. Newcastle were 19th and Everton were 16th at the time. Now, Newcastle has only lost 4 of their last 14 games against Everton in the Premier League, but no win against them in the last 2 seasons. Last season, if you remember, Anthony Gordon missed a penalty at Goodison Park, and Everton won at St James's Park in the last game of the season. Now, when it comes to the first half, actually Newcastle is the team that has conceded the fewest goals, only after Arsenal and Crystal Palace, and is the only club in the Premier League that has not conceded in the first 30 minutes of any game. When it comes to players, Harvey Barnes now is the top scorer for Newcastle for the season, and he has scored 3 goals in his last 2 Premier League games after going 16 games without a goal. He also scored at Marseille last night. Jack Grealish has the most assists in his career against Newcastle, 4, and he also has 4 assists this season in the Premier League, the joint most, but they were all in August. He has no assists since then. Let's hope for a first away win since April. We are on a run of 9 games without a win away from home, the longest since 2015-2017. Then we went 12 games without a win. Hopefully we start on Saturday. How are you, lads?
Thank you as well to Andre. Looking forward to seeing him in a couple of weeks' time. Him and the Bulgarian mags are coming over, so we will give them a good old-fashioned Newcastle United welcome. Looking forward to seeing them. Okay, Mitch, are we going to stop the rot away from home against Everton? 1 game they've lost at the new stadium to Spurs, who we beat. But they've got a pretty good record there so far.
Shows the ridiculousness of the Premier League at the minute. Everybody can beat everybody again. Nobody seems to be being consistent in terms of form. Yes, they seem to be enjoying life at the new stadium on the whole, but it also shows losing at home to Tottenham, they're fallible. There's weaknesses there. They're going to be missing important players. And that run has to end sometime. It really does. So it's another game in which you've got to turn around and think, well, literally anything could happen.
Yeah, certainly could. I mean, we're not going to get into the who's he going to play and what's he going to do and what's he going to play. But one thing we do on this show is get the dice out. What's the dice say for this game, Mitch?
The dice says for this game 0-0.
That would do me. I've got to be honest. A draw. I'd take it
away from home every time, particularly at a place like Everton. It's never been the happiest of hunting grounds for it. So, you'd have to take that. I'm going to take a little bit of frustration from Tuesday and sprinkle that a lot of good things that happened on Saturday, and we'll squeak a 1-0 win and break that run.
Okay. George, feelings about the game at the weekend against Everton?
Well, anticipating a good game. As I consistently say on here, if the players has got their right heads on and they stick to the manager's plan, we can beat anybody, and that applies to Everton as well. I find the Hill Dickinson Stadium interesting that people gloss over the fact that because they allowed that stadium to be built, Liverpool City lost its World Heritage status, which I gather is costing them millions in tourists. But never mind, that's another issue that's not football. The other thing that always sticks in my mind, though, is that the manager always seems to do well against whoever he's managing. Moisey's got a bit of a hex somewhere, so that's another thing we've got to beat, and I'm content that we will, and I'm happy to go for a 2-0 win.
Yeah, I've got to be honest. I really do feel as if Newcastle can get something. I think a draw is the best we can hope for. I really do. And I'll take a point. I'll take a 1-1 draw down there. But I can't. I just can't see us. I can't see us winning the game. But never say never. It's certainly going to be an interesting weekend. I'd like to get an away win before we play Sunderland. That's for certain.
Absolutely.
That would be the key. And we've got big games coming up, of course, next week, 2 home games, and it could all look a lot different in the Premier League by the end of this week, one way or another. Okay, we're going to finish with one of these. day I met where we actually sent a photograph of you meeting somebody from Newcastle, past or present. Jason Gradwell, thank you very much. Jose Enrique, you met, which is a great photograph. Thank you for sharing that. That's a new face on the screen for us with this particular section. So thank you very much for that. If you've got one and you want to send it in, then you just need to email nufcmatters1892@gmail.com. Send your photo in and we can feature it on the show. Thanks to all the moderators. Thanks to everybody in the chat. And thanks to George and to Mitch. Thanks to everybody. Back tomorrow night, 6 o'clock with Supermac and Gibbo. Look forward to seeing you then. Take care, lads. Have a good weekend.
Thanks for watching, folks. Good to see you all.